So let's talk about programming languages, if it's okay,
Sure,
at
sure.
the highest absurd philosophical level, because
Don't get romantic on me, Lex.
I will forever get romantic and torture you. I apologize. Why do programming languages even matter?
Okay, well, thank you very much. So you're saying why should you care about any one programming language, or why do we care about programming computers, or
No, why do we why do we care about programming language design, creating
yeah, okay.
effective programming languages, uh, choosing one programming languages versus another programming language, why we keep struggling and improving through the evolution of these programming
Sure, sure,
languages.
sure. Okay, so I mean, I think you have to come back to what are we trying to do here, right? So we have these beasts called computers that are very good at specific kinds of things, and we think it's useful to have them do it for us, right? Uh, Now you have this question of how best to express that, because you have a human brain still that has an idea in its head, and you want to achieve something, right? So, well, there's lots of ways of doing this. You can go directly to the machine and speak assembly language, and then you can express directly what the computer understands. That's fine. You can then have higher and higher and higher levels of abstraction up until machine learning, and you're designing a neural net to do the work for you. The question is where along this way do you want to stop, and what benefits do you get out of doing so? And so, programming languages in general, you have C, you have Fortran, and Java, and Ada, Pascal, Swift. You have lots of different things. They all have different trade-offs, and they're tackling different parts of the problems. Now, one of the things that most programming languages do is they're trying to make it so that you have pretty basic things like portability across different hardware. So you've got, I'm going to run on an Intel PC, I'm going to run on a RISC-V PC, I'm going to run on ARM phone or something like that. Fine. I want to write one program and have it portable. And this is something that assembly doesn't do. Now, when you start looking at the space of programming languages, this is where I think it's fun, because programming languages all have trade-offs, and most people will walk up to them and they look at the surface level of syntax and say, oh, I like curly braces, or I like tabs, or I like, semicolons or not, or whatever, right? Subjective, fairly subjective, very shallow things. But programming languages, when done right, can actually be very powerful. And the benefit they bring is expression. Okay. And if you look at programming languages, there's really kind of two different levels to them. One is the down in the dirt, nuts and bolts of how do you get the computer to be efficient, stuff like that, how they work, type systems, compiler stuff, things like that. The other is the UI. And the UI for a programming language is really a design problem, and a lot of people don't think about it that way.
And the UI, you mean all that stuff with the braces and
Yeah,
the
all that
actual.
stuff's the UI, and what it is, and UI means user interface. And so what's really going on is it's the interface between the guts and the human. And humans are hard, right? Humans have feelings, they have things they like, they have things they don't like, and a lot of people treat programming languages as though humans are just kind of abstract creatures that cannot be predicted. But it turns out that actually there is better and worse. Like, people can tell
Yeah.
when a programming language is good or when it was an accident, right? And one of the things with Swift in particular is that a tremendous amount of time by a tremendous number of people have been put into really polishing and making it feel good. But it also has really good nuts and bolts underneath it.
You said that Swift makes a lot of people feel good. How do you get to that point? So, how do you predict that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are going to enjoy using the user experience of this
Yeah.
programming language?
Well, you can look at it in terms of better and worse, right? So if you have to write lots of boilerplate or something like that, you will feel unproductive, and so that's a bad thing. You can look at it in terms of safety. If, like, C, for example, is what's called a memory unsafe language, and so you get dangling pointers and you get all these kind of bugs that then you have to spend tons of time debugging, and it's a real pain in the butt, and you feel unproductive. And so by subtracting these things from the experience, you get happier people.
But again, keep interrupting. I'm sorry, but
It's so hard to deal with.
if you look at the people that are most productive on Stack Overflow, they have a set of priorities
Yeah.
that may not always correlate perfectly with the experience of the majority of users.
Sure.
Like, if you look at the most upvoted, quote unquote, correct answer on Stack Overflow, it usually really sort of prioritizes like safe code, proper code, stable code, that kind of stuff, as opposed to like if I want to use go-to statements in my basic, right? I want to use go-to statements. Like, what if 99% of people want to use go-to statements? Or use completely improper,
Sure.
unsafe syntax.
I don't think that people actually, like, if you boil it down and you get below the surface level, people don't actually care about go-tos or if statements or things like this. They care about achieving a goal.
Yeah.
Right. So the real question is, I want to set up a web server and I want to do a thing and I want to do whatever. Like how quickly can I achieve that? Right. And so from a programming language perspective, there's really two things that matter there. One is what libraries exist, and then how quickly can you put it together, and what do the tools around that look like? Right. And when you want to build a library that's missing, what do you do?